Darrell here. The channel is Programming in Any Language. The supporting website is www.blackdashduck.com. You'll find the videos and PDFs of the code there in most cases. The video is the Anything Database version 2, part 2, adding a record. Part 2 is all about adding records to the database. That sounds simple enough. Enter data, save data. But we need to separate some functionality. If the user is in the middle of an add and changes his or her mind, we need to provide a way to cancel that operation. That said, if the user likes what they have entered on the screen, the ability to save that data needs to be a separate process, which we will call update. And you'll quickly learn that we'll be using update later when we give the user the ability to edit records. Enough talk. Let's code the adding a record portion to our application. Take a look. Breaking the Anything database down into pieces makes it doable. It makes it much easier to look at one thing at a time. So we're going to be taking a look at the Anything database version 2, part 2 in this thing, and it's going to be adding a record. Remember from our hierarchy chart, we have a bunch of things we're going to do. Navigation, delete, add, edit, search, clear, load, and save. And plus we have update, cancel, and find. We're going to do a little bit of this today, but we're not going to do it all, obviously. And so we're going to break this thing down somewhat. We want to look at the add button right here and the pieces that are going to belong to it, which are the update and the cancel. So it's best not even to look at anything else when you're dealing with this. So you kind of take your hierarchy chart and break it down into something like this, the add. We want to add a record to the list, flip our buttons, then do our update or cancel, give the user a chance to do this. What are we doing this for? Well, basically, we're turning on things so the person can add data into the database. And then the user may choose to cancel this, not do this. I don't want to do this anymore. Or they may want to go forward and update it. So we have end up with an update routine or a cancel routine. So really, this is fairly straightforward. We're simply going to open things up so they can add, and then we'll let them make a decision, basically with buttons, on whether or not they want to cancel this or continue. When you look at the form, we won't be using everything on here, so I've highlighted the things we're going to be working with. We're certainly going to have a record count here because we're going to be adding to that. All of the name fields, all these fields that are going in here are going to be used. City, state, zip, name, middle initial, first name, address, all that kind of stuff. The navigation panel will get turned on when we end up with the first record being greater than 1. We can certainly turn that on at that given time. And the add, the update, and the cancel will be the ones that we're going to be using. We're not using edit, delete, or the rest of these guys. We are going to turn them off. And we are going to make them invisible. So they're there. But because they're not a critical part of this video and this portion of the program, we're not going to highlight their names right now. So let's go ahead and do this. Looking at our application program, which right now does this, comes up with basically blank. Navigation is not there. The buttons are all showing, and we have no records in it. We're going to go ahead and do the add first. So I'm going to double click on this to get our event displayed for us. There it is, button add. What are we going to do here? With button add, we're going to do a number of things. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put a number of things in it. We're going to we're going to set a Boolean for adding, which is going to be equal to true. In other words, that's going to open the text box for data entry. Why are we using a Boolean? Because we're also going to be doing editing. And editing, we'll use the same update functions that add's going to use. But there'll be slight differences or some variations in how we're going to update when we actually do an edit. So we need to have a Boolean here so we can tell the update what's actually going on. That means adding Boolean up on top. So I'm going to go way up to the top here. And I'm going to apply these things to it. We'll put it down on our utility variables. So we're going to create a Boolean adding false and Boolean editing false. They'll be identifying whether or not it's an add or edit function. That brings us down to our add again now, which no longer has an error here. And it tells our application that we're in the midst of adding. So that's what we're doing right now. Then we want to be able to enable the entry boxes so we can type something in there. We want to clear them in case there's anything in it. And we're going to flip the buttons. Just change the visibility for all things. So we're setting up several routines to actually do this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create an enable text boxes routine. So we'll go down here and put in private void enable text boxes. And put in our braces. That creates our routine, gets rid of our error, and now all you do is tell us what to do. Well, basically what we're going to do for this, we want to take every enabled property that we have there and make them enabled. How do we do that? Like this. We take txt first name enabled equals not txt first name enabled. In other words, if we set them as not enabled, this is going to make them enabled. And we can use this return to turn them on and off as we need. So this is a nice routine to have. So that opens up our text boxes. We can look at that real quickly by commenting out these things and then doing a file save and a run. And And we can see what will happen if we hit the add now. They do turn on. So suddenly we can type into this thing. So that's a good step in the right direction. It's always a good idea to test as you're going along anyway. We want to clear text boxes yet and flip our buttons. So we want to set up another routine. Clear the text box in case there's anything in them. So private, void, clear, text boxes. And set up our routine. What does that look like? Well, just like we think, it's going to look like this. We're basically going to put nulls in each one of the text boxes that we can allow entry in. And we're also going to set the focus to the first name. So the user is actually sitting on this. So how does this thing work? Let's go ahead and try it out. We'll comment out our flip button. Do a file save. Start. Application looks like this. We'll do an add. We now can type in here. Notice that my cursor was sitting right at the top area, ready to go. I can keep on doing this, but of course I can't do anything else. So let's go ahead and cause our flip buttons to work now. We also want to flip the buttons then, which means we want to bring in, what do we want to bring in? Let's go ahead and make this thing active again. Let's look at this thing. What we want to bring in is, let's send this to the background. Send to back and send to back. And behind those edit and delete buttons were the update and cancel that we want to use. We want to see these buttons and make everything else disappear. Because once the user's entered something in here, the only choice they're going to have is to update or cancel. So let's get that in place. We're going to be a flip buttons routine. So we'll go ahead and say private, void, flip buttons. Give it the braces, and it's all set to go. How do we do this? Very simply. We take each one of our buttons that we have in here, including the ones that are invisible, and lay them in here and do the same thing we did with the enabled part. We basically say button add visible is equal to not button add visible. Button edit visible, not button edit visible, so on down the line. So the ones that are invisible will become visible. The ones that are visible will become invisible. How does this work? Do a save here, run it, take a look. We now have an add. And notice all the buttons. Oh, the exit button's sitting there. We should have gotten the exit button and turned that thing off too. Do we want to be able to exit this? I think we want to force the user either to edit or cancel this. So I think we want to actually also have the exit button in this place. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this thing off and add that piece to it. btn exit dot visible is equal to not button visible. Try it again now. Add. Much better. All the user can do is update or cancel. We'll code the cancel button first to get them out of here, and then we'll code the update button so we can actually put a record out there and actually add many more records as we go through this thing. So how do we do that? Well, we're all set to go with the cancel button, so we're going to go down here and we double click on cancel and we get our routine. What's cancel going to look like? Well, we want cancel to display the record count. So we need a routine for that. So we're going to say display record count. If we go back and look at our hierarchy chart, we notice that we have display record count for the delete buttons and the clear button. We don't have it sitting in any of these things. This is one of those things and why this is a working document. You have to think about what you actually want to do here. We flipped our buttons and everything, so we're going to add. If we had records out there and we cancel this thing, we probably don't need to put anything in this cancel button right now to display the current record count, but we do need to set the focus of the text box and flip the buttons. So we do need to set them up there so that they're sitting in the add position. Or do we? Yeah, we want to clear whatever is put in there because the user is canceling the routine. Do we want to disable the buttons so they're not doing that anymore? Maybe so. Flip the buttons? Maybe so. Probably so. We want to also turn off all the enabled properties on this thing. So, that's the kind of thing we have to look at when we're actually dealing with this thing and making it work. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this display record count. We're not going to have this in here. At least we don't think we need to do it now because nothing's changing. Nothing's changing when we actually do that. We are going to want to do, though, we're going to want to flip buttons. That's for sure because we canceled and brought ourselves back. We're also going to want to clear the buttons, disenable the buttons. We should probably call this flip enabled flip text boxes. So we're going to turn that back on. So back to where it was. We're no longer adding. So we can turn off our Boolean. So we're not adding it anymore. And lay in a label telling us that that the operation's canceled. Let's see if this works. And if we like what we're seeing here. We'll do a start. Oop, we got an error. Where's our error? Expect a semicolon. Missed a semicolon someplace. 109. Probably dropped out of there. Oh, it's right here. Okay, we're just missing that at the end. Now let's do a file save and do a run. We do our add. We can type in Daffy Duck. We get so far when you say, wait a minute, we don't want to do this. We want to cancel this. Hit the cancel button, and everything is back the way it was. Oop, but we didn't clear this. These did not get clear. We want to actually take care of that too. So we want to clear the area as well. Another reason why you kind of test as you go to make sure it's doing everything you want. Yeah, it's doing almost everything I want here. It's clearing up everything I'm seeing here. My record count's there. I do want to clear off the text boxes. So let's go ahead and do that and add that piece to it. And we can grab that from up here. And we can lay that right in after the entry, the enable. There it is. Now it's going to be fine. Quick test, add, works great. Daffy, cancel. Daffy's gone. Everything's back the way it should be. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want. But now let's go ahead and do the update button. How are we going to handle that thing? So if we look at our form and double click on update, we get our next button. For the update button, we want to do something like read data entry. In other words, read all those fields. All text boxes from a user. We're going to do that. How do we do this? Now, what we want to do when we read these data entry fields is we want to actually set them up so they go into the database the correct way. In other words, according to the size we actually wanted it. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a routine to do this. We're going to create a private void read data entry, put our pieces on there. We can also add a comment to this. Move to memory and pad with blanks and size them right away. So to do that, we're going to look at each one of these particular fields we actually have in here. We have the first name. So our str first name, in fact, we set these up way up here. We set these up last time before we have our data entry variables in here. And we want to prepare them for the list box to be the right size. So we're going to set up and say str first name is equal to, and we're going to say txt first name dot text plus str 35 blanks dot substring starting at 0 and go out for 20 positions. Why 20? That's what we're going to allow our fields to be when we look at the, that's how we're going to let the first name be is going to be 20 positions, which we defined when we looked at our database, what the output record is going to be. We're going to actually store in our database. It's going to be a 20 character field. So it's always going to have blanks in it. So Daffy, D-A-F-F-Y, is going to have 15 blanks following it. And that'll put that in place. An equal sign here, not a minus sign. That fixes that up. We do the same thing with str mi is going to be equal to txt mi.text. We don't need to do any substrings here because we've only set the middle initial field to be 1 character long. We can't type in anything bigger than 1 character because we set that length of text field to 1 character. Str last name is going to be equal to txt last name.text. I want to put up parentheses in for our plus str 35 blanks dot substring 0 for 20. I'm sorry, we want to make our first name 15 characters long. That's right, I screwed up on that. It's always handy to have that field that you're looking at nearby so you can actually see it. And then we're going to continue on down the road by taking our address line, our city, state, zip, and doing all that stuff as well, which we'll do right here and just pop that in there. So again, the str address line 1 is the address with 35 blanks, 0 for 35. Line 2, 0 for 35. City is going to be with the blanks, 0 for 25. State, 0 for 2. Zip, 0 for 5. So in all cases, we're putting all that together to create that field. So what's next? We're going to add record to list record. That's what we want to be able to do. So we'll take all these pieces and add them to our list. How do we do that? Again, it's another routine. So we'll set that up right now to do its job. And we'll say private void add record to list record. That didn't look good at all. Private doesn't like the PRI. Okay, I need a PI on there. But there it is. It's all set now. It's ready to go. So we set that thing up. Go ahead and do our comment here. We're going to add data entry vars to the list. And it's real straightforward. LST first name dot add str first name. This will add it to the list box. And we can add the rest the same way. The middle initial, the last name, address line 1, 2, city, state, zip, all get applied directly to the list by doing an add feature on this thing. And that's all that needs to happen there. So that puts that in place. We now can increase our record counter. So our record does get increased. That means we probably should do a display record count. So we'll set up a routine for that. Since we're using it in multiple places, it'll look like this, which means we actually have to create display record count. We'll do that right now. Private, void, display record count. Takes away the error. And display record count is going to look something like this. LBL record count dot text is equal to int record count to string. So we're taking our int record count up here, and we're actually taking it, whatever it happens to be, and putting it out on the label. We're also going to do a little check on this thing and say if int record count is greater than 0, then we're going to turn on our panel navigation. So our PNL navigation dot visible is equal to true. And that's all we need to say. So basically, we're going to go ahead and display our record count. And if it's greater than 0, we're turning that panel on. Yeah, it's going to turn on every time we have something in there, but that's okay. It's going to do it and put that in place. So that puts that little piece in place now. So our read data entry, our add record count is doing all nice stuff here. And add a record to the list is going to display a record count. So we're going to be working with that here. So every time we do an update or a read, it's going to automatically take place there. In fact, maybe that's where I want to put it. Let's put that up there instead. Put it in display record count so we have our update there. We then can clear text boxes, enable buttons, and flip our stuff around. So we'll flip our buttons, enable our text boxes. Yeah, that's where our record count should go too. We're adding here. Yeah, let's do this over here. Control X, add record to list. It adds it here so we can update the count here and then display our record count. Flip buttons and set our Boolean to false. BLN add is equal to FALSE. And then inform the user that things have gone merrily away. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this update and when we're using it for edit, we're going to put an if statement in here and allow these things that belong to edit only take place if the Boolean is on, if Boolean add is on. If Boolean edit is on, we'll do something slightly different. So this routine is going to have the intelligence to know if it's actually adding a new record or updating an existing record. It's also later on even going to be involved in the search button, so we're looking at that as well. So we'll do some changes to that thing. So we're going to use Booleans in this little very area right here to make that thing work. We should be in pretty good shape right now. Let's take a look and see if this thing works. Save all, do a run. Here's our routine. Let's do an add. Daffy D DUCK 1122 Pond Lake Road, apartment 2, Pond City. Put them in California, 99883. Do an update. Notice our record count has increased. The record is successfully added. Our navigation buttons are on. We don't have any arrows in here. We'll do that when we get to the navigation piece in here. But we can actually access these guys at this point in time. And they won't do anything because there's no code, there's no buttons, there's nothing there. But they're there. So our navigation gets turned on. Now we can even do another add if we want. Notice we can't type in here, but we can do another add. So we can actually put in Elmer Fudd. We can even cancel this. Keeps us at one record. Do an add again. Elmer P. Fudd. 2323 Hunter's Lane. Put them in Pond City too. Oops. Pond City goes in the city part. We won't have it. We're not going to have any apartment for him. We'll just leave that blank, and we'll put him in Pond City. CA 99. Whoops. CA 99883 and update. And we're up to two records. I want to show you one more thing here. I want to add, and we've put in Tweety Bird. I'm going to say BX. It doesn't let me put an X because it's only allowing one character to go in there because we made that size 1. So we're stuck with just one character, and that's the reason we don't have to pad it with blanks and save it. The last name is sitting like this. Address line 1, I can type a whole bunch of things in here, and it stops at some point where I'm getting in there. It won't allow me to do any more than the 35 that I actually made that thing. So make this, let's see, Birdcage Lane, Swing 1. Let's put him in Pond City also. CA. That's something too. We could use substrings to format these things. They're always caps, and you don't have to type those things in. You could use that for a substring as well and place that in there. 99883. Update it. We have 3 records in there. We can't navigate because we haven't created these things yet, but our stuff is there. We can't type in here anymore, but we can certainly know that we have 3 records in there. It might be nice to save them so we don't have to retype them. We're going to lose them all when we turn this program off because we didn't create a save yet or a load. So those are kind of coming up. We need to do a save. We also need to do is navigation. So we're looking at probably navigation next. And after that's done, we need to do a save button. But that's what add looks like. We can now add records to our lists. Saving that data to disk would be nice. But before we do that, let's turn on navigation and let the user browse through the records in the list. That's what we'll do next. Thanks for watching. Visit the website when you get a chance, and please subscribe to the channel. There's more stuff coming every week. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.